Hey everybody, Jeremy Ogunba here. Some call me J.O, and I'm with the Real Wealth Investors. And today we're talking about 1 out of 3 of the conversations they say you should never have with anybody, that you should not engage in. And what are those 3 things? They say you shouldn't talk about money, politics, or religion. But if you know me, you know I don't mind chatting about any of them. But today we're going to talk about money, 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 money. Money. Now my wife, she says I'm tone deaf, so I'm gonna stop right there because I'm sorry if I was hurting your ears. But we're gonna be talking about money. We're gonna talk about the myths and the lies that we believe about money and about the people that have it. And so first, I just want to ask you guys a question. Just what is money? Like, how did it come about? And how do we get where we are right now as it relates to money? And so if you go all the way back, there was a barter system and people was trading one thing for another. Or I have some tomatoes, let me trade you for some oranges, things of that sort. But nobody can actually do everything. And so as communities formed and certain people became experts at like one thing, they then began to actually sell those things one to another. And so if I grew tomatoes and you grew something else, I would trade those things. But what do you do like if I grew tomatoes and I want to buy your boat? Like, how do you even do that? Am I going to give you like hundreds and thousands of pounds of tomatoes for that boat? And would somebody even want that many tomatoes in the first place? But what if you lived about a 3 days journey away? Am I going to carry those many tomatoes to your house? Like, how is that even possible? They needed a system where they could exchange something of value to get what they need. Some people even use things like cattle, but that was, at some point, that wasn't good enough because how could I, a cattle's worth X amount of dollars or X amount of value. But if I want to buy your t-shirt from you, can I cut that cattle into pieces and give you a piece of that cattle? I guess I could, but it just made it more difficult. And they recognized that they needed something that could be easily divisible and able to be broken down into smaller parts to accommodate different items with different values. They wanted to be able to scale up or down depending on what they were buying. They also needed it to be light enough to be able to carry it around wherever they were going. If you begin to figure out some of these problems, then you can actually begin to trade at a higher frequency, and the economy can actually be a more flowing economy. Before some of these things were in place, it made it really hard to actually transact with people. And eventually they decided on the gold standard. And that was the one thing that they knew was a valuable substance. It was going to be hard to try to counterfeit some gold. You couldn't do it. And you wasn't making more gold, and so there was a limited amount of it. So it kind of made sure that it was going to be a fixed value. Eventually, they started using silver as well. And they adopted that widely because it was a little lighter than gold. But what would happen sometimes is somebody will have some gold, and you have to weigh it every time before you did a transaction to see how much it was. And sometimes that slowed up the process. But then eventually, they became these banks that started to invest. And they started to form these banks where they would actually hold people's gold in vaults. And the gold would be safe there. You didn't have to worry about trying to protect your gold at all. It was protected, and you were sure of that. But at the same time, they took your gold, and then they wrote you something called a certificate of gold. And so they said, you have a $20 certificate of gold, and now you can redeem that at any time and get your $20 worth of gold back. If they were using dollars, I guess, but they were using gold. And so these banks started to grow. And the reality is that at some point, these banks got kind of greedy. And these bankers started to actually write over to themselves certificates of gold, even though they didn't have the gold in the vaults to back it up. And so usually on the gold standing, it's this idea that for every dollar or every certificate that's in circulation, there was gold in the Federal Reserves to back it up. And at this point, people started exchanging the gold certificates as if it was gold. As far as they knew it, it was gold. Because at any time they can go and they could actually redeem it. But why try to carry so much gold in your pocket and carry this rock when I can carry a piece of paper that had the equivalent value? And so not many people actually began to come and trade their gold in. And that's when the greed started to increase because they were sure that the gold will be there. If everybody doesn't come at once to get their gold back, then they could actually print out certificates of gold, throw it into the economy, even though that gold wasn't accounted for in their vaults. And eventually, This only worked if people had confidence in that certificate. If they would never need to redeem that for actual gold. That's the only way that this would work. That cheating, that scheming would actually work. But if you were a bank that spends some time making your own cash or certificates and pumping that into the economy without the equivalent gold in the vault, and if one day the majority of people out there decided to trade in their certificates and said that, hey, give me my gold back, the bank would actually collapse. And some of them actually did. And in 1971, the scandalous Richard Nixon, who took America and actually the world off the gold standard, he's the same one that was impeached. He's the same one that actually did a lot of fraud and corruption and stole a lot of money. And some people alive probably even lived through that. And sometimes we forget that. But he took us off the gold standard not even 50 years ago. And now we're on this other standard called the fiat currency. Or these fiat certificates. And now it's not about gold anymore. It's no longer about that. This system that's now in place is in place and evolves around debt and credit. Debt and credit. And so if you don't think your credit is important, it's super important because the whole system that America is based on credit. So stop running away from credit companies. Stop saying, I ain't paying those people. Keep hanging up on them. Eventually, you need to do what you said you was going to do and pay your debts because that's going to put you in a better position to actually gain more money in the long run. But anyway, it's a system that's on debt and credit. The term fiat refers to a government decree. And it's just a reality that the government has the power to decree that these certificates, this money, this paper can be used to settle government debt. That this paper can be used to settle debt amongst other people. But here's where, because we left the gold standard, banks now operate very closely with the government. That's why they bail them out all the time. But there's these things or this way in which banks operate called the fractional reserve banking way. And so what that means is that banks do not have to actually have all the money in their possession in order to loan it out to people. And so what the ratio says is that you need to have at least 1/3 of the actual money that you lend out. Hypothetically, if I was going to lend out $100 million this month, or if I only had $100 million this month, I could loan out to $3 million, $300 million worth of money. I only need 1/3 of the actual money to actually pump it into the economy. That's why I say if you understand real estate and you understand how to manipulate it, you can practically print your own money. Literally print your own money. Now for example, I buy houses, I sell houses, I flip houses, I hold on to houses. The last house that I flipped, I sold for $315,000. And I owed the mortgage on that to a lender, and the buyer came with his own lender. And the buyer was approved for that $315,000. He had enough credit to get that loan to pay for that house for $315,000. He entered into debt because of that credit for that house to buy it. And so what happened was that lender, that bank, wired $315,000 to the attorney at closing. And that attorney took that money and separated it and sent some of it back to my lender to pay him off, so I'm good and my debts are paid with him. And then he kicked me the rest of the money. Now that money didn't exist before it hit my bank account, before it hit the other lender's ledger as they keep track of their books. And now somebody else is responsible for that money and the debt that they owe. And that's why the foreclosure happened and everything. I mean, that's why the recession happened when all the foreclosures happened a couple of years back, about 10, 15 years back, is because people started to default on their loans. That money that's now accounted for, that's in the economy, is not going to be paid back. So banks started to have to account and banks started shutting down. Or the government bailed them out, of course. But this is the system that we're on, and this is the system that's not going anywhere. Why do I say this? Because they don't teach you this stuff in school. If you can learn how to create money and build generational wealth for you and your family and for your community, why not? This system is not going anywhere, so we need to learn it, take advantage of it, and at the same time invest in other stable and moral currencies. Kind of like Bitcoin. Yes, I said it, Bitcoin. It is the future, but that's a whole nother video here. But I would invest in the current system and the one that's to come, and to use one to grow the other. Honestly, like I'm trying to help somebody understand some financial literacy here. And if you understand what I'm talking about and you use this information, man, you can change your life on that alone. So how do we use real estate to not just make more money, but to build real wealth? And what do I mean by real wealth? What do I mean when I say that? Real wealth is not about money, but it's about time. I cannot stress this enough. At our jobs, we exchange time each week, 40 to 60 hours to get what? Money. We work overtime to get more money. We spend our lives exchanging time for dollars. We spend our lives on what I like to call the hamster wheel that is the American economy. It's this thing that we exert so much energy and we're running over and over and over and over. And we just get off of this hamster wheel to recognize that we really didn't even go that far. We believe the lie that says that we just have to save and save and save. And we say nothing about investing. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but your saving isn't going to get you out of the jams that you're in. You know, they don't teach this stuff. They don't teach financing in high school. It's for a reason. They want you to just consume and keep running on this hamster wheel that is the American economy. They want you to go to college and get a degree and get a job so that you can continue to make somebody else's system run, so that you can add to the overall larger economy. They want you to jump on this hamster wheel. There are people working on Wall Street, lawyers and doctors, who can't get off this hamster wheel. 40, 50, 60 hours a week and they're not happy. The real wealth I'm talking about is not about money, but it's about time. Time to be with family, those that you love, doing what you love, and living out your passion. Time to live. Time is the one commodity we cannot get back, even if we wanted to. Once it's gone, it's gone. How did you use it? How did you spend it? I can always make more money. I can always replenish my checking account and my savings account. For money, I can find another job. I can work more hours. I can hustle and sell some stuff. I can find more money somehow, some way. But time, once it's gone, it's gone. The only thing I can do is use time and the limited time that I have to do what? To make more money, but to also give myself some of that time back. Have you ever felt like you were just waiting for Friday? Why? Because finally there's time to do what you want, to be with those you love, to live. The weekend is America's designated time for you to do your hobbies and the things that give you life. The hamster wheel conductor has said that you can only do these things on the weekends or during the summer or maybe on your 2 weeks if you get that. Some of you don't go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning because the nighttime is the only time that you have. Because the assumption is that during the day, Monday through Friday, your time belongs to someone else. Time is the most important commodity. How much of it do you have? How much of it do you want? Most people have a plan for how they're going to make more money. I'm assuming you do too. But do you have a plan to see how you're going to make more time? Most people do not. And at what point are you going to make that plan? Are you going to wait until you retire? And at what age will that be? Will you even have the amount of money that you need to retire? Somehow we're convinced that our 401k is preparing us well for retirement, but it's not. Most people find out less than 10 years away from retirement that they won't even have enough to live comfortably. Then what? And then when you factor in inflation, how much will the money that you're investing now actually be worth when you go to pull it out? Are you investing time now in a way that gives you more time in the future? If not, I want to show you how to use real estate as one of the best ways to be able to do that. One of the best ways is to gain real wealth. One of the best ways to gain real wealth is to gain more time is through real estate. And the difference between real estate and other investments is that real estate is real. It's tangible. It's a real asset. I can touch it. I can change it physically. And by changing it physically, I can change the value of it. And because it's real, and it makes it so much more accessible to people. There's housing everywhere around our country. No matter what city you live in, you can find some houses that need to be fixed up, that need to be invested into. It's so much more accessible sometimes in the stock market or other forms of investment. But that which is physical can lead then to real wealth, which is hard to actually see on the surface. It's not that tangible. Time is invisible, but time is the most important commodity. And real wealth is earning back that time. It's about getting off the hamster wheel of survival and earning passive income that is not contingent upon the numbers of hours you work. Real wealth is setting up your life in a way that puts you at the helm to dictate what you do with your time and what you do on a daily basis. When this country was formed, it was only those that owned land that were able to dictate the policies that will govern this land and the economics that will develop this land. Real estate and its ability to help people build real wealth has been around since 1776 and even before then. And I'm trying to help you understand the strategies that I'm talking about are not anything new. These are strategies that folks have been using and implementing for centuries. We have to understand that America is a system that when it was set up was put in place to benefit those that owned land. We're not making more of it. It's also a limited commodity. Real estate, in my mind, is an ultimate cheat code. If you can understand it, master it, manipulate and leverage it to benefit you and those around you, why not? Money is a tool. Use it well. You can retire from formal work at 35 if you start early enough and have enough income coming in that you don't have to worry about working if you don't want to. Real wealth is not about riches. Riches and just money is about just having more of it. Wealth is about having more time, and it's about the quality of time that you do have. Many people use these words synonymously, but they're very different. Real wealth is about structuring your life in a way that increases your time and your money, instead of exchanging one for the other. Why not increase both? Not just settling for getting more money at the expense of your time, but yes, in this sense at least, you can have your cake and eat it too. And now I want to jump into some of the limited beliefs that stop us from actually living out this life of a real wealth investor. There are all these limiting beliefs that stop us in our tracks and that get in our way from helping us move forward, that we can actually begin to do some of these things that I'm talking about. And I want to break some of those things down for us. In order to live this real wealth life, you need real wealth thinking. You have to change the way that you think. When you change the top of you, you change the rest of you. Now, I spent 8 years as a campus minister and also as a youth pastor, and I'm a language buff, and so I love words. And so there's one word that it has this negative connotation many times, but I started to study it from an academic standpoint, and it was really interesting. It's this word called repent. Now, don't worry, I'm not trying to preach at you or anything like that. I'm just trying to help you understand why your thinking is so important. But literally, let's take the word repent. The prefix re, it means to do it again, like to recycle, to recommit, to reform something. It means to do it again. And the word pent is similar. It's from the same root word that we get pentacle or penthouse. It's the top of something. Now, what all of these ancient faiths have taught us is that the ability to transform ourselves first and foremost begins with changing the way that we think, changing the top of you. Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, to these limiting beliefs, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's the idea that where your mind goes, your body flows. I practically teach the same thing in football. When you're going to make a tackle, I tell them to keep your head up. Many times if you put your head down, your body's going to go where your head goes. And that's when you see people missing and flying and trying to make a tackle and hitting the ground, because they need to keep their head up, because where your head goes, your body flows. What are your repetitive patterns of thought? Because how you think will translate into how you act, and the habits that you create, and will determine the kind of life that you build and how much you allow fear to rule over you. Will it be one characterized by real wealth, or will you have a life that's characterized by you running on this hamster wheel? You choose. You have to first identify the limiting beliefs and the lies that you're believing, and then choose to believe more correctly. If you correct your thinking, you can correct your actions and correct your life. You can then put yourself on a path to real wealth. Some folks just want me to tell them how to earn more money. But honestly, if I can't get you to change your mind, to change the way that you think, a year from now you'll remain in the same place. And I'm just keeping it 100. Because what you believe becomes a part of your identity. That is way more important than what you know and just the knowledge that you have. We all know we're supposed to eat right and exercise, but the majority of us don't do it. If it was just about what you know, we would all be millionaires sometimes. But we have to actually begin to believe these things and uproot these negative beliefs so that we can transform our mind. If we can help people change how they believe, about what they believe about themselves and about the world, damn, man, they can do so much. Like, this is why when you see the advertising trying to get people to vote, they don't say, hey, go vote. They be like, hey, I'm a voter. Are you a voter? Because if you identify as a voter, the only thing you can do is then go vote because it's part of your identity. No, I'm a voter. I'm going to go vote. Not just because somebody told you to go do the action of voting. But if you can connect it to your identity and understand of who you are, those are the things that actually empower us. We have access to our thoughts, to analyze them, to begin to change them. And if we're able to do that, we're able to change our lives. The thing that you believe, those are the roots of your tree. And if you do not strike first at the roots, it doesn't matter what else you change, you will continue to get the same fruit. Many people focus on the fruit because that's the part that you can see. But the real area of focus should be the roots. The limiting beliefs are the things that need to be uprooted. And the new empowering beliefs and understandings are that which needs to be planted in that soil of your mind and of your heart and of your vision. But when you change the top of you, you begin to change the way that you think and your beliefs. And you begin to change everything, you begin to grow. And that becomes the shade for those in the heat. That tree begins to grow. And the branches begin to be shade for those who need to get out of the sun and sustenance for those that are hungry. This is why our logo is what it is, because real wealth is like an oak tree that has deep roots that over time has become a resource to those around them, that others can enjoy in its shade and in its resources and in its qualities. When you start living as a real wealth investor, you begin to grow branches and leaves and participate in the healing of communities and of neighborhoods and of nations. Real wealth gives back. Real wealth creates shade. Real wealth creates fruit, not just for itself. Real wealth creates more life. It's not about taking. It's not about hoarding, but it's about future generations. It's about your life being a seed that when it goes back into the ground and dies, it bears much more fruit. I want to leave my kids with opportunity, not with debt. Wealth is not good or bad. It just reveals and makes clear that which is already there. If you're stingy, it'll make clear that your stinginess is shown. But if you are a giver, it's not long before money is going to reveal the heart of a giver. How many causes are out there that you want to be able to give to, but you can't because you have to jump back on this hamster wheel with the hopes of just surviving, never mind thriving. And now you have to think more individualistically instead of communally. And you have to think about how you can maintain and keep your resources. But when you begin to grow in real wealth and you have to have more and extend more, you're able to extend more resources to people and be able to help and share in what you do have. Even while you're on this hamster wheel, find ways to give, because if you do, without a doubt, when you start having more resources, you will still be a giver. If you are a giver when you do not have much, then how much more of a giver will you be when you have more? Now, if I went back and forth about starting this YouTube channel and coaching and making courses because I thought about what others thought about me. But then I thought about all the people that I could actually help and how I can coach, motivate, train people onto this path of real wealth. If I could benefit one person to understand this real wealth path and to understand how to use and manipulate real estate to get this new lifestyle, if I can help one person, it'll be worth it. When I thought about that, I realized for every hater out there, there's at least another 50 people out there that would appreciate my message. and the way that I can help them and help change their lives and help get them into real estate. I could have focused on the haters, but I made up my mind. I made up my mind to not care about them or to care about what they thought. I committed to minding my own business and not caring about what's potentially in the mind of other people. But again, that's a mindset that has allowed me to be in a position where you are now watching me and listening to me through some device. I wouldn't be here if I still had those limiting beliefs about myself, about money, and perceived barriers, and my beliefs about what is possible. We have to change the top of us. I tell my adult son all the time, I say the difference between those that are capable and those that are not is those that believe that they are. That's it. If you believe in your mind that you're capable, that you have the ability to figure it out, that's it right there. That's the important part. That you have the ability to figure it out. Even if you mess up and fail, you can learn from it and do better. Another thing I tell him is that you only lose if you quit. If you don't quit, you win. That's my story. Man, if I was to sit here and tell you my story, I started in real estate. I had 5 properties at one time, paying a mortgage on 5 different homes. And at the time, my job is saying they want to cut my hours from 40 hours a week to 10 hours a week. And I'm trying to flip houses. I'm trying to have tenants. I'm trying to be a nice guy, give people cheap rent. I'm trying to live out my values. And I recognize, man, it's hard. And my wife, man, God bless her soul, she stuck with it, man. We went through some nights trying to pay the bill, borrowing money from family members. Man, my story is one that didn't start out too well. But the motto and the belief that if I don't quit, I win. If I don't quit, I win, that kept us through. And now I can actually see the fruit of that labor. You do not even have to have the belief that you know it all at this moment. You just have to believe that you're capable to figure it out, to keep pressing, to keep moving. Now quickly, let's just name and talk about some of these limiting beliefs about money that keep us stuck on this hamster wheel, that keep people from living out the life that they can actually live. What are these ways of thinking? The first thing is, I hear all the time, oh, I don't need money. You don't need money? How did you get the device that you're watching me on? You somehow money paid for that thing. You know, what if you just stopped getting paid? Would you even have enough money to survive a month, 2 months, 6 months? The Bible actually says that money answers for everything. Yeah, it's in the Bible. Look it up, Ecclesiastes. Don't fool yourself. You need money. You need money. Now that's what the hamster wheel is about. It's about keeping you on the hamster wheel because they know that you need money so you can survive. Money is an integral part of this society. If you don't have it, God forbid. But what's the alternative? I'm trying to help you understand there's a way to get off the hamster wheel. To not be like, oh, I don't need money and convince yourself that you don't need it but still be enslaved by it. But to try to actually get you off the hamster wheel so that you have enough money to actually do that. Another limiting belief is the idea that, oh, more money just brings more problems. Now, I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. You know, I was a fan of Biggie. I understand more money, more problems. I get it. But honestly, more money is more problems when you already had problems. It just makes what was already there that much more so. And so you say more money, more problems, but if there's more love, right? More money, more love. If you already had love, if you already was a giver, then I'm told that money's going to help you be that much more of a giver. So more money, more problems. I get what you're saying, and to some degree it's true, but money is a tool that reveals what was already there. Number 3 limiting belief is that it takes money to make money. Meaning that unless I come into some sort of inheritance, unless I get a big lot of money kind of allocated to me somehow, I don't have enough money to get invested in real estate. That is not true. That is not true. Yes, you need money. Yes, you need capital. But what they don't tell you is that you don't need your own capital. You don't have to use your own money. If you think you're going to save up $15,000, $20,000, which I think is like the minimum that you need to probably get invested in real estate, if you think you're going to save that up while you're on this hamster wheel, God forbid you actually, please don't try that because it's going to take you a really long time. If you're living paycheck to paycheck now, saving up $15,000, $20,000 is not easy. Trust me, I've been there on the hamster wheel. I had to find a way to get off of it. But what people don't tell you is that you can use your credit. That's what I'm telling you. This system is based on credit and debt. If you can use your credit Show that you're responsible enough to pay back your debt. You can actually get a loan for $15, $20, maybe $30,000. Use that money to pay back that loan, $300, $400 a month, and use the rest of the money to invest in real estate. Flip a house, pay that whole loan off, and now you're still up money. That's how I started in real estate. If you think that credit is bad, then I'm telling you, you got to learn how to use credit. There's good credit and there's bad credit. Don't just go rack up credit card debt. Unless you're like me, using credit cards to actually fund the flip, to renovate the house, and then pay it off. Hey, man, I hustle to get where I am. I'm not going to say credit cards are bad. But if you're using it to buy things like clothes or to buy things that you don't need, don't do that. But if it's about the investment and getting the thing done, then you have to understand how to use credit. If you know how to use credit, then you can actually allow the system to work for you instead of just damage you. If you have bad credit, get serious about that. Get serious about it now. Get a Credit Karma account. It's free. Figure it out. They give you tips on how to change your credit, and they actually tell you how your credit score is determined. And so all these things are available to you to change your credit. Just make the mind change to be serious about it. Stop ducking creditors and pay them. And actually put yourself in a position to actually be a real wealth investor. Can't do this without capital, without money. Now, another limiting belief is the idea that money is the root of all evil. You can't lie to me. I study some of these things. Like the Bible actually says that the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not money in and of itself. It's the love of money. Because when you love money, you end up putting money over people. That's the problem, because when you love money, you create more injustices because people are being harmed because of your love of money. You're going to do everything to save the bottom line. It's even to the point where you're going to maybe cut somebody else's pay, to where you're going to try to find the cheapest person to do the labor for the cheapest amount, where in the long run it ends up hurting you in the long run and probably taking more money out of your pocket. You're better off just paying the person a good amount and having them do the job right. There are people out there who are changing the world with their money. Money reflects people. It's like a mirror. It just reflects what you put in front of it. There are people who are throwing millions of dollars. Look at Bill Gates and his wife throwing millions of dollars to charities to advance important things in our society and in our culture. There's ways in which our money can be used for good. Another myth. Wealthy people drive fancy cars and live in these huge mansions, and that they dress to impress. You actually probably won't even notice a wealthy person if he walked by you in the streets. I'm telling you. I know wealthy people, and they look like average Joes. They're not trying to be flashy. Real wealth is not about what it looks like. It's about the deeper things, the more important things, that one of them being time, comfortability. All debt is not bad debt. That's another myth. All debt is not bad debt. There's people out there that will never own a house or never own a credit card because they think getting in debt is just wrong. You have to understand, when the Bible talks about debt, they're talking about a system that was more accurate to bartering or to the gold standard than it was, or they use silver as shekels and stuff during that time, but they're not messing with this fiat system. This is what the whole system is built upon. I'm telling you, you got to understand how these things have changed. And when you understand these things, you'll recognize that some debt are actually good debt. Some debt actually makes you more money. Another myth, you can save your way to wealth. It's not going to happen. It's not likely, especially now with inflation. That's the plan and the narrative that the hamster wheel owner has told you about, but I don't really trust that person to care about my well-being. But if you want to be a real wealth investor, this is where it begins. This is where I hope to challenge you and some of those limiting beliefs in the way that you think. Now, seriously, if you identify some of those limiting beliefs, begin to change them. First and foremost, to do that, it may require some humility to actually, learn something new. I know it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes, but I'm telling you, if you're willing to go through the process of changing the way that you think, you can change your life. But you got to recognize that you can't keep believing the same thing and expecting a different result. In the next video, I'm going to let you know how to set up a foundation for your real estate investing so that you can actually build on solid ground. I call these the 4 cornerstones of real estate investing, or the 4 cornerstones of real wealth. But keep following us as we reveal the best ways and strategies to actually build this real wealth kind of life that give you your time back, that help you jump off of this hamster wheel, hopefully for good. And so check us out in that next video, but also check us out as we continue to roll out courses and as we continue to have coaching groups and do one-on-one coachings. I'm here to help people actually get off that hamster wheel and actually begin to invest in the long term and to invest in getting more time back and getting more money in the long run. Invest in something that's more generational, maybe even reduce this wealth gap that we see in America. But thank you for joining us on this journey, and just be on the lookout for some of these things that are coming up next. But yeah, see you in the next video.